Hello, welcome back to the 14th episode of the Aussie Footy Show, presented by the BJ Show. Round 10. Where has that time gone? It's gone so quick. 10 rounds plus opening round. So we do have the Sir Doug Nicholls round, week 1, and that is now complete. We will also share the second week of the Sir Doug Nicholls round, part 2 of week 2. So many great games to watch, and I'm going to review each game. Then we will share each game for round 11 previews and predictions for week 2 for the Sir Doug Nicholls round. Some awesome games I will also now share. Well, the intro's now done and dusted. Let's get into the reviews and thoughts for each game for round 10 for the first week of the Sir Doug Nicholls round. So let's get straight into some reviews and thoughts for each game. Starting on the Thursday night in Darwin at TIO Stadium, we have the Gold Coast Suns take on Hawthorn Hawks, which this was the game in Darwin. And I really think this was a very good contest in the game to watch. It was a great game to watch. I watched some of the game at Kenilworth Football Club while I was doing my raffles. As you may have heard the announcement, I am the raffle coordinator, director. So director, coordinator to do with raffles. So to do with the juniors, which is a great program. They have absolutely improved it. Let's get straight into this again. So the fact that this was Hawthorn never gave up, and that's who I'm starting with, which, look, it was very hot. And Gold Coast, from Gold Coast, know the heat, go to Darwin. They've been up there all week, play the second game, they dominated. And Hawthorn had their moment. Really did do well. But I will now share the crowd attendance of 12,314,000 at the stadium, which is fantastic and good effort to the Darwin community to share some really important game of football. So let's begin. As I mentioned before, we do start with Hawthorn and Gold Coast. Well, effort to come and play to Darwin and play against a good form Gold Coast, which is in fact Hawthorn. And I gotta say, 2 wins in Darwin make it 8 straight for the Gold Coast Footy Club, and they take on the Western Bulldogs. The first one, now Hawthorn. Well, Hawthorn knew it wasn't going to be easy to travel down and win. Gold Coast are in good form. Yes, they've had some bad losses, but they have actually improved on those losses, and big time. Well, Gold Coast were never going to get and have Hawthorn any chance of winning this game. They did open that door quite a bit in that defence, and Hawthorn had to found to be in front, and then overall Gold Coast just controlled that final quarter, and that's what good teams do. They find that they lead, and by 3 points, Hawthorn was leading at 3-quarter time. They had everything momentum going their way, but Gold Coast was better. Heads up Hawthorn. Play well against Brisbane at the MCG. What should be really a good bounce back and a good game to watch. Well, like I said before, Gold Coast, well done. 8 straight win in Darwin. Well done on the win. Good luck next week, as it will be a good game against the Western Bulldogs. Knowing that Hawthorn was going to be tested, and that's always a good thing to do. Enjoy the win, Gold Coast, knowing that this would be a really good way to finish the Darwin to 2025 AFL Premiership. Now it's time to hit the roads to Melbourne and take on St Kilda. We'll share their reviews and thoughts, how they went against West Coast. But I tell you right now, this will be some interesting when it is now time for the player of the game. It's just amazing that Stat goes so strong to this player. A former Collingwood player continues to improve with Damien Hardwick, which he's done so well with these players to come to play. The Gold Coast will hopefully win the premiership. Well, this man's name is Joe Nobi, included 36 disposals, 5 marks, 2 tackles, 116 AFL offensively, including that 70% half with forward 30%, 1,011 metres time on ground, 111 time on ground, and the first time in history of meters game. Well done on your personal best, 1,001 on your game performance of the Gold Coast star John Nobi, the midfield star. Well done. Hey, once again, Gold Coast was to win Hawthorn. Heads up, playing well next week. Friday night football, that's where we are heading to the SCG. This can be anyone's to win, and it was. One team played better in the first half. The other team played better in the second half. Before we get to that, we are at the SCG, the Sydney Swans, Carlton Blues game. And I've got to say, Sydney Swans take on Carlton Blues, and we have the crowd attendance of 39,000 ATG packed the SCG for what was going to be a good game to watch. Unfortunately, didn't watch this game, and I knew it was going to be a good game and good contest and entertainment to watch, but it was Sydney taking a big win over Carlton. The final score is 11 goals, 1278, defeated 9-8-62. So I've got to say that Carlton was in control most of that game. They started alright in my understanding of reading the stat quarter by quarter, but Sydney did not, Sydney needed to win. They did not do great in the first half. You know, Carlton controlled their first style of football. They wanted to do what they want to do, but it was the second half for Sydney, and they'll be waiting about a half to win the game. They win 16-point victory over Carlton. Yes, Sydney do play Melbourne. That'll be an interesting game. They head to the MCG. Carlton, well, this has to be another win. I don't know what's happened with Carlton. They should be a top 4 side, but unfortunately, it's just not there. You know, yes, they have injuries. This is what happens, but you need to find another player to step up, get him that player confidence, and, you know, score some big game goals. But every time Carlton just don't do well, they reply big time next week. So we'll see what happens to Carlton next week. Yes, they can affect with injuries. That's part of the game, but you need to win games if you want to play finals. A bit worried? Yes, I'm a bit worried about Carlton. Yes, early in the season, almost halfway through. Wow, that's amazing saying that. But, you know, you never know what can happen next week, which Carlton do take on GWS, which is almost both teams lost, which GWS will share very soon with their game against Fremantle, which will be, like I said, share very soon. But this is a very short reviews and thoughts what I think about the game. So I am just going to get straight into the power of the game between the Sydney Swans and the Carlton Blues, and I'm going to give it to Chad Winger. Well done on your game performance. 116 8 for City, 30 disposal, 4 marks, 3 tackles, 2 goals, 38 defensive half, 62% forward half, 9 score involvements, 2 goal assists, 630 metres game. Well done on your game performance, Chad Winger from the Sydney midfield star. Time to now get some fun with Super Saturday Football. That's exactly we go into right now, and we have 4 games to share with you all. The first game, which is at the MCG, the Collingwood versus the LA Crows. Then we head to the west of Sydney at ENGIE Stadium for the GWS Giant take on Fremantle Dockers, and then we head over the Adelaide Oval for the Power and the Cats sexy Geelong Cats. Then final game, we have the Saturday night at Marble Stadium for the Western Bulldogs tackling Essendon Bombers. So let's get to the first game. Let's now get to the first game. Melbourne at the MCG for the Collingwood Magpies Adelaide Crows. What the interesting game, and also my game of the round 100%. Why is this game of the round? Well, anyone's to win. It was close all game. The crowd attendance, a record crowd, 67,697 packed at the MCG. Known for the G. So that's a common old school saying, which is a good crowd and a matter-breaking crowd between Collingwood and the LA Crows at the MCG. Final score 11-12, 78, 10-8, 68. So this is an interesting game, and I will start with Collingwood. Look, Collingwood know that this was a really important game, and know Adelaide are in really good form and started their season so strong, I'm going to say. The last time that Adelaide played Essendon was early in the season, and Absolute scored 161, but that was a warm condition. This is wet football, and knowing both teams too can play wet football very well, but well done Collingwood, bet on the day, you know, knowing over 4 quarters, knowing that Collingwood are in a good form, top 4 side at the moment, for a reason why Collingwood are playing better in the wet than the Adelaide Crows, are good as well, but not enough. Collingwood just slightly better on the day, and I think that may be partly of that, but 67 67,000 really builds up the records. But bad like Adelaide Crows, had everything on the line, back kicking, bad shots for goal, and we are betting that in the wet. Every point counts, and that's what it's all about. But like I said, Collingwood, that's a bit strong on the day. Missing goals, missing shots. That even just it was a test for Adelaide to come to Melbourne MCG and play Collingwood and win. Well, it was a good effort and, 10 points. So, the last time Adelaide did win and play well was against Essendon and play strong. But this was a different style of football. It was wet football, better midfields, quick on their feet. The Dacor brothers absolutely dominated. Jenny Elliott played his style of football, small forward styles for the Collingwood Magpies. Right, he's a very famous player at this modern football and he just is so well there. But Adelaide do come back to Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval to play West Coast. We'll share that game on the Sunday afternoon for the part 2 of the Sir Doug Nicholls round, and it'll be a really important game to share. But I will do now come to the Collingwood and Adelaide best on ground player, and it doesn't matter if it's a winning team or losing, it's about best player on the game, and I have included Jordan Dawson from the Adelaide Crows captain. Well done on your game performance. 138 AFL intensity, 27 disposals, 9 marks, 8 tackles, incredible performance. Oh yeah, 1 goal. We had defensive half 66%, 34% is forward half, 18 uncontested possessions, and contested possessions, which it includes to 8. We have 1 goal assist, 8 goal score involvement, 500 metres game. Huge performance from Jordan Dawson. Well done on your game performance. So we now come into the next game. Let's share that right now. We have a double time schedule of 3:45 p.m. South Australian time, local time. Check your local guards on the A4 app. First up, it is the Port Adelaide Power hosting Geelong Cats. Sexy Geelong Cats. Then we tag on the Greating Western Sydney Giant host the Fremantle Dockers, which will be held at ENGIE Stadium. So let's get into heading to the Adelaide Oval. That's it. We got Port Adelaide. They take on their sexy Geelong Cats. Let's get straight into we had a 35,500 pack at the Adelaide Oval. Final score, the Port Adelaide going Bowers Gawley. And that's the word I'm going to call it. Geelong 17 goals, 13-115 defeated. Port Adelaide 5-9-39. Now, right at this very beginning of the season, it is a rebuilding season. It is not a great to see what is Port Adelaide going on in this season, and big games, big losses, and you cannot afford to do that. Big injuries coming through to the Port Adelaide's team, and just being your best team on the footy field, but you need to find a way to get better against the team. Port Adelaide will be taking on Fremantle in Perth. Yes, it's not their season, but they need to find a better efforts, because you cannot, against a good team, lose by 8 goals, and that's not excusable for Port Adelaide. You play at home, you need to play. That's your advantage. That's your game. This is your home games. That's where all the Port Adelaide supporters will see you perform. Geelong will come over and then will enjoy that win. And that's exactly what Port Adelaide did. They went to sleep. And that is not a really good sign. And you gotta find a way to, that's exactly what Geelong did. Put Adelaide to sleep. So Port Adelaide, like I said, will take on Fremantle. Will be a good test. Yes, Fremantle are at home. They are in good form. They do play well at home. And it'll be a good test for Port Adelaide to hopefully stay in each quarter for each contest. And they have to do it. Yes, there will be a young team. But look, going into Geelong, set Geelong Cats. Got the job done. Business as usual. Good scenes. They bounced back from that bad loss against, whoever that was. It doesn't matter what team it was last round. That Geelong did bounce back, and, Geelong do play Western Bulldog, and that will be absolutely the game of the round in my thoughts. So, and Bailey Smith take on his former clubs. That will be some sure of the entertainment. But I will share some players I think play really well in this game. Ollie Wines from Port Adelaide, Colin Rosie from Port Adelaide, Bailey Smith from Geelong, Mark O'Connor from Geelong. Well, I am going to give this player, and I'm going to share the player of the game, Mark O'Connor from Geelong, include 110 AFL intensity, 28 disposals, 11 marks, 86 defensive, 14% forward, 20 uncontested possessions, 5 score involvement, 108.44 time on ground, and a well done 801 metres game for the Geelong star from Mark O'Connor. Second doubleheader for the 3:45 of the twilight afternoon Saturday football, and we all have super football here on the BJ Show. But let's get straight into it. We do head to the west of Sydney. We have ENGI Stadium for the GWS Giants taking on Fremantle Dockers. Final score 12-17-95, defeated 8-13-61. What is happening with the what you call Oriental Dockers, but it's what's happening to the Giants. But before we get into that, this is one of the upsets of the round. This is clearly, don't know where these teams are at, but we do have an 8,092 packed, which is very low, which is okay, but GWS need to win. Well, I'm really unsure where GWS are. They cannot keep losing at home. Losing at home, losing in Canberra, which they do play well, but don't know what's happening. Can GWS make finals? I think they can, but I think they're on the edge of their life. But Fremantle, my goodness, well done on the road win. Coming from Perth to go to west of Sydney and play top four side, which they're not there, and then play each quarter, 4 quarters of football with a win. And they did it. But enough is enough. I am going to, 90% with all Fremantle. So, GWS need to find a way. They, it was a test for GWS. I'm just going to say that. I went with GWS with the win and somehow just didn't face great. And Fremantle will play Port Adelaide. I think this will be a massive momentum, confidence into next game. They'll be in front of their purple-white army. This will be a really good game to watch. So, and GWS will wish them best. But this is going to be an absolutely short and sharp to get straight into the next game, which wow factor from this. But I will share some of the players I think they did play well with Lockie Ash from GWS, Finn Ham from GWS, Shane Bolton from Fremantle, and Caden Solong from Fremantle. But
stay with us. We'll be right back.
Are you fed up with the same old takes from the mainstream sports media? Well, it's time to refresh your feed with Your Other League. I'm Josh, and I'm the host of Your Other League. Join me, Matthew, Andrew, and Ryan as we give you honest sports takes from relatable fans. This is Your Other League. Check us out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Download today.
well done to all those players. Did play well. I really was actually showing it to Shane Bolton. He was the best on ground for the Fremantle Dockers. All right, this is it. The moment we have come to the Super Saturday night football in Melbourne. We've got the one game in Melbourne at Marble Stadium, Western Bulldogs versus Essendon, with the crowd attendance. A good, decent crowd, 47,266. A strong crowd and a very heavy victory for the Western Bulldogs over Essendon Bombers. And I tell you, the final score 18 goals, 19, 127, 5-6, 36. So I do have a few questions to share. And I'm very honest here. My questions are, where is Essendon? Can Essendon play finals? Does Essendon have the best team for season 2025? Is this the worst game ever I've seen from the Essendon Bombers in a long time? Please bounce back, play full course of football. I know you can do it. And for the Essendon supporters, know you can do it as well. So let's get back to the game. A disappointing performance from Essendon. Well, like I mentioned, bounce back against Richmond, and it will be a very important one. Dream time at the G. This will be at the MCG. Friday night football. This will be really important. But I really like to share now with the Western Bulldogs. Nice and short. Well done on the win. Big win. I couldn't say too much about looking off each quarter, one quarter, all 4 quarters, and Western Bulldogs face Geelong. Will be a good test. Go down Geelong and Bailey Smith will play his former club, as I said before. Well, it's time to share straight into the player of the game, Macca's mentality from the captain from the Western Bulldogs star. I've also included Bailey Dale from the Western Bulldogs, Nick Martin from Essendon Bombers, and Mason Redman. All well done on your game performance, but I do come to make a decision. Bailey Dale from the Western Bulldogs include 154 AFL fantasy, 49 disposal, 5 marks, 70% in defence, 30% forward half, 37 uncontested possessions, 1 goal assist, 11 score involvements, an amazing 1,016 metres game of any player has done on marble. And Bailey Dale, well done on your game performance. Make a personal best record to scoring a 49 disposals game. Record comes a long time for any Western Bulldogs player. So well done. So heads up Essendon. Like I said, heads up. These questions need to be asked. Very honest in that way. In a positive matter way if I can. But I know you can perform well, better against Richmond. But I know that for a fact. Western Bulldogs, they are in good form and they deserve this win. Heads up, play well next week. Let's get into Super Sunday footy for the final 3 games for the round 10 first week of Sir Doug Nicholls round. We do now come to Sunday afternoon football. Super Sunday afternoon football. We got some massive upset for the rounds and over the line victory. Let's now share where these games are going to be at and we'll get to each quarter. So the first one is at the MCG. It is the both bottom sides, Richmond and North Melbourne. And the next game is Brisbane Lions hosting Melbourne Demons at the Gutter. And the final game, which I really think it's just the upset, is West Coast and St Kilda at Optus. So let's get to the first game out of 3 for Super Sunday afternoon football. Okie dokie, we are here. Thursday, Sunday afternoon. Let's get straight into it. Richmond taking on North Melbourne. Both teams and the bottom teams face at the MCG with a really good half crowd, 50,400 seats, which is a great crowd for both bottom sides at the MCG. I went for North Melbourne. I think they had better confidence from that draw and they went one step better. Unfortunately, with Richmond, they gave it all. They gave a try, but the final score 12-6-78, 11-8-74 is a pretty well accuracy for both sides. And they're saying, don't know where they are, but North Melbourne, they just got a big win and they will totally enjoy it. They've been pretty good recently in the last couple of weeks as with those 3 losses, a draw and a win. Records will come through and well done. Richmond, heads up, seasons are over. Rebuilding is what's all about. These winnings and losing games all about. You did against Gold Coast the last time you actually won, so one step better and you'll do well. So heads up, well done to both teams, but I do come and share some of the games of the round and I gotta say I will now share them with you all. Toby Nurkirpers from Richmond, well done. We got Tim Talotio from Richmond, Tristan Exa from North Melbourne, and Lou Davis Unconi from North Melbourne. But I do now share my play of the game. Tristan X from North Melbourne include 155 AFL fantasy, 19 disposals, 12 tackles. So a big fella, it's huge. 16% in the half and forward half is 40%, so almost 50-50. 6 score involvements and a 385 metres game. So well done on your game performance in the North Melbourne star, Tristan Exa. Okay, the moment we rain for, we do come to the second game of round 10 at the Gutter. Brisbane hosting Melbourne, and the crowd attendance was 30,473 pack at the Gutter. Now I'm going to start with Melbourne. Really like to start with Brisbane and seeing where they are, but Melbourne, big win, big road win. You're going to have a 30,000 plus Brisbane supporters absolutely bursting with victory. And, Brisbane had all in front. They had the game in front and then a winning part. But Melbourne just found a way to win, and boy, they shot the comp big time, and Brisbane's still a good team. They will bounce back, and from Hobart to have that draw, then they come back home. They should win beauty, but Melbourne, they're not going to give any easy hope. Brisbane just taking it, we'll take on Melbourne, no problems. No, Melbourne are going to be in that contest, and they did it. Well done. Big winners. Well, Brisbane, heads up, still not over. You're still a good team. You go and travel to, we'll share the teams who play each next week. It's Melbourne take on the Sydney Swans at the MCG, back on the winning. Well, both teams will be interesting to see where they're at this competition of the 2025 AFL Premiership season, which will have Brisbane taking on Hawthorn, which will be also another road trip to Brisbane with that as well. So these two sides will be seeing where they are. Nice and short. I can't say too much about this game, but Melbourne just really blown a lot of people, I think, this round. And, well, anyone can win anywhere, and that's what competition's all about. And all bit of fun, but I do come play of the game. Matt Scorn from the Melbourne Ruckman Star, 117 AFL Fantasy, 22 disposals, 7 marks, 46% defensive half, 54% forward half, 7 score involvements, 46 hit-outs. Well done on your game performance from Matt Scorn from the Melbourne Demon Star Ruckman. We're flying high. Yes, their first win at home, their first home game comes to a win, which is the final game for the round 10 first week of Sir Douglas Nicholls round. This is a huge game for St Kilda. And before we go straight into that result, this is huge to share. We have West Coast and St Kilda at the stadium. I'm going to share short reviews and thoughts. The questions, where's St Kilda? Could St Kilda play finals? Can St Kilda travel to Perth and win? Well, how can St Kilda go to Perth and lose against the team that will more likely be bottom of the AFL ladder? Good effort, St Kilda. You got to bounce back against Gold Coast. You got to do something well. You're not going to have a big crowd there because you're not knowing where you are. You may have an injury. Step in and play that role. You need to know where you are at this time of the year. And there's massive questions about it. West Coast Eagles flying high. Well done on their first win for the 2025 AFL Premiership season. That is it. West Coast was the 42,806 fans packed at the stadium. And I gotta say, this is the one that no one even saw happening. I think it was a 50-50. West Coast knew this has to be a win, and they did it well. They do travel to Adelaide next week, take on the Crows. It will be a big test for West Coast Eagles, and I really think this could be a 50-50 game. You don't know how West Coast is going to show up, but this has to be a momentum coming against on the LA Coast. They did get defeated against Collingwood, only 10 points, but LA will bounce back. They got some good starts there, but St Kilda, West Coast Eagles, they got some talent as well, and I tell you right now, they need to play their full quarters of contest football and they'll be in the game most terms. But I gotta say, West Coast Eagles, they are in front all game and they control that game all day. St Kilda do take on Gold Coast at Marble. But like I said, which will be a challenge with St Kilda over Gold Coast. Well, they're not a big fan travelling to Marble, so surely that St Kilda have a bit of momentum. But I gotta say that you never know what can happen between St Kilda and Gold Coast. They now share of the part of the game that's making it short and sweet. Jet Sinclair, look, the reason why there was a lot of St Kilda's players in their stacks, but they deserve this player. Jet Sinclair was 139 AFL Fantasy, 38 disposals, 7 marks, 6 clearances, 953 metres game. So that's a huge performance in a team that couldn't get the job done but get the win with the player of the game from the St Kilda midfield star Jack Sinclair. Well done on your game performance. Alright, that is round 10 of the first week of the Sir Douglas Nicholls round. What do you think for all 9 games and from 18 teams from round now? We head into round 11 for the second week for the Sir Douglas Nicholls round. So we do come to the first game. We do have those reviews and restrictions who I think who should win and what my overall think for this game. So, first game, it is the Geelong Cats. Sets the Geelong Cats take on the Western Bulldogs, and it is the Bailey Smith special edition as he takes on his former club and team. And this game is held on Thursday night at the GMHBA Stadium down at the Gallery in Geelong. Both teams winning over 15 goals, so this will be a must. Who is going to win? Is Geelong going to go back-to-back, or is it going to be the Western Bulldogs going to go back-to-back over those sexy Geelong Cats? So, saving bets, going with Geelong with those sexy Cats with the victory, and I think it will be a victory for them, and it'll be a good game. I really think this will be very special. So, as I said, Geelong Cats with the victory. We do now come to Dreamtime at the G on the Friday night football, most important game for the Sir Doug Nicholls round, and it is a very special game as well. Should be 50 more than that. Let's say 70,000 packet. The MCG between Essendon and Richmond, and these, I'm going to say with Essendon, look, knowing that Richmond should win, I'm going with Essendon. I think they'll bounce back big time. There'll be a massive embarrassment loss against Western Bulldogs, and Richmond just knocking his victory over North Melbourne. So if Richmond won last week, I would so tip them, but it's going to be close. It's going to be an interesting game. Look, it's going to be just so much in the time to watch this game, and I really, just make it short and sharp. I'm going with Essendon with this game, and that'll be a good game to watch. I now come to Super Saturday Footy, and we've got full games to share. 2 games in the afternoon, 2 in the evening. First up is the Carlton Blues and GWS Giants at Marble Stadium. This should be a good crowd of 40,000. Both teams coming from just losses, and my tip is Carlton. They'll come back. They reply. They play well at Marble, so I'm going with Carlton Blues to take in the win. We do come to the second game of the Saturday Super Footy, and we come to the MCG. Hawthorn take on hosting the Lions. The Brisbane Lions return to the MCG. First time since 1-4 against the Richmond Football Club, and I cannot believe anyone can win this game. It is the gassy game of the round. Both two teams in top 4. Well, really, Hawthorn were coming off from the loss against the Gold Coast, and Brisbane Lions off with a defeat against the Demons at home, so in Brisbane at the Gala. So I'm going to take a risk, and I'm saying with Brisbane, knowing that Hawthorn can play at the MCG and they do really well, but I think Brisbane will come back to Melbourne and get that victory and get back on the winning list. I think this will be a good crowd of 60 to 65,000 pack at the MCG. We now come to this 2 Super Saturday Footy, and we're going to double. First one is in Melbourne for North Melbourne versus Collingwood. Then Perth. That's it. We're heading to Perth at Optus Stadium. We got for the Fremantle Dockers attack on Port Adelaide. So let's share the first game. And my goodness, I've got to say, what games I'm going to say and review this game. Staying with, we got North Melbourne and Collingwood at Marble. Should be a good game. Big winners for North Melbourne and as well Collingwood. So both teams taking the wins just over the line. And I'm going to go with Collingwood. Look, they're a good team. They're top 4. They're best team. North Melbourne, they're finding their feet. They're coming together really well. So making nice and short, Collingwood will take the win and they will be in front all game with at least last 10. These two met at Marble on a Sunday football afternoon. It was super football, and also the upset around North Melbourne. That's it, up by 50 points, and it was out of nowhere. Collingwood came back. Win by point, high-scoring football. So I don't think that will happen this time. It's a different kind of environment on an evening time schedule. So I really think that Collingwood will just take the win and they'll win with 3 to 4 goals. So that is my predictions for that one. Off to the second Super Saturday football for the evening time slot. And we head to Optus Stadium for Fremantle. Very good side. They do take on Port Adelaide. What it should be a good game. I'd stay with Fremantle. They're home. They should take the job done. They did well against the Giants on the road. They're back at home in front of their Purple Army, and should get the job done. So they'll have some massive confidence with Port Adelaide embarrassing loss against a very side of Geelong. They need to bounce back, play full quarters of football. That's all I'm asking. Port Adelaide, please do that. Know how good you can be from the last few seasons, and oh my goodness, this has to be a bounce back. I know you may not play finals, but stay in the contest. And we know that this is like a rebuilding style football for Port Adelaide. They'll be back, and I think they'll be just in that game, but Fremantle safe from there. So Fremantle is my tip for the game. We now come to the last three games, Super Sunday afternoon football. The first one is the LA Crows take on West Coast Eagles at Adelaide Oval. Now we head to the MCG for the Demons and the Swans. Melbourne Demons, Sydney Swans, then St Kilda and Gold Coast at Marvel. So what of these games are going to be, we'll find out right now. We share reviews and restrictions. This is what I've been doing in the last 10, 11 rounds of the 26th season 2025 with Aidan Barry. So stay tuned with all that part 2, but to get back into that. So, well, I gotta say, LA Crows, my goodness, my Crows, and they are taking on a West Coast Eagles defeated, and they'll have so much confidence with that win, and they did not just win by 1 point, 2 points, they win by 3, 4 goals under that, very comfortable, and they're in front all night, all game, West Coast, and now they're going to come to Adelaide Oval, should be an interesting game. You never know what can happen with West Coast, they have to find some confidence, but I think Adelaide's going to be really, really too strong. They have the talent, they will bounce back Adelaide, and the horrible loss against Collingwood, just look, that's all I'm going to say. West Coast, very well done with the win against St Kilda, knowing that this was eventually going to happen, but win at home and finally get after 10 rounds, this is a big achievement, and West Coast will come to Adelaide. They'll have to find some big wins. Can they go back to back, or Adelaide get back on the winning list? We'll find out, and it should be a good game of 4 quarters of footy. So, like I said, I'm taking with the Adelaide Crows, which is Will's advantage for the and why I chose this game, because of the LA Crows supporters as well. We now wish them both of luck, and my crowd attendance restrictions is between 45,000 and 48,000, so almost a sold out crowd. Now, we do now come to the Super Saturday footy. We go to the second game, we get to the MCG, and I think this should be a very entertainment. Melbourne and Sydney head to head MCG, what should be a good game. Team in Melbourne at the MCG, safe bet on that. Some huge confidence coming against Brisbane. This could be a confidence boost for Melbourne. But, you never know with Sydney. They can play well the MCG. They have played there several times for the grand final. That's where finals football was played last dance in September. So they're known for last day in September. So getting back to this game, with Sydney taking the win over the Blues, at home. Now they come to Melbourne. Not far, but should be a really good game. Should be good entertainment, but I think should be a close game, but same with Melbourne Demons, as I mentioned before. Here we go, final game, and there's not much to say between St Kilda and Gold Coast. It's just, look, Gold Coast taking big 2 wins in Darwin that make it 8 straight, and I clearly tipped them. St Kilda don't know where they are. They really are struggling. Come back home, they get a really poor crowd, and will be about between 25, 30,000, which is not the best crowd in my thoughts, but stay in overall. It will be a one-way traffic, and St Kilda needs to be in this game for 4 quarters. They're staying in the game. That's all I'm saying for St Kilda, for, like all those St Kilda supporters out there, making sure they do well as well. So to wrap this things up, Gold Coast with the win over St Kilda. Well, that is all for the results, reviews, restrictions for round 10 and 11 for Sir Douglas Nicholls round for week 1 and 2. That's all we have on that bit. Stay tuned for Aidan's result restrictions for round 10 and round 11 for all those Sir Douglas Nicholls round for week 1 and week 2. So we also stay tuned for that 1,000 episode. Well, what I meant 1,000 episode, 1,000 download episode. We also have the SNFL W States Football Special Edition as well yet to come. We'll also have the International Agenda and the Aussie Footy Show with BJ and Aidan Part 1 and Part 2, all including this episode, will be all out very soon. Alright, thank you so much for listening. See you all soon. But if you have not listened to the latest episode, please do reach out. We do have a goal. We are setting 1,000 by the end of May, and we're currently on 816 downloads, which I really think we have gone past that download. So from 816 the time I have recorded this episode, we are currently on, 954 downloads. So it's been a big journey. So the time you actually listen to from 816 to 954 will surely to be past 1,000 by then. So hopefully you do listen. So all you have to do is listen to Spotify or podcasts of Apple Podcasts, the BJ Show Facebook page podcast. All the latest episodes will be on there as well, as I've been sharing so many times. Thank you so much who has follow as well on the BJ Show. Much appreciated. All right, that's all for now. The BJ Show's out. Peace. Bye for now. Peace. Cheers.